My name is Akshay, and in this session we will learn about Airflow. What is Apache Airflow? Apache Airflow is an open source workflow management platform. Airflow is written in Python and workflows are created via Python scripts. Airflow is a kind of a job scheduler which basically is a framework to help you schedule your jobs. And jobs can contain multiple tasks internally. These tasks are defined as part of your DAG. We will talk about DAG, but for now let's assume that it is a job scheduler which can help you to schedule your jobs. Jobs will contain multiple tasks internally which will run as a pipeline. This is done through a job definition file which is also called DAG definition file. This is specific term given to definition of your job where you will define multiple tasks as part of your job, and we will refer to these jobs as DAGs. To summarize, a DAG definition file will contain definition of DAG. DAG will contain pipelines with multiple tasks, and these tasks can be interdependent. Okay. Let me walk you through some concept of Airflow, and we will summarize what Airflow is. Now we will see three concepts: DAG, task, and dependencies. Let's first talk about DAG. Okay. DAG, which means Directed Acyclic Graph, is the core concept of Airflow, collecting tasks together, organized with dependencies and relationship to say how they should run. So let's pull an image. Okay. So this is a graph where each circle is known as vertex and each line is known as an edge. Directed means each edge has a defined direction, so each edge is necessarily represents a single directional flow from one vertex to another. Okay. Acyclic means there are no loops in the graph, and so for any given vertex, if you follow an edge that connects that vertex to another, there is no path in the graph to get back to the initial vertex. In this example, see let's start with A. So from A we can travel to D, and if we follow any direction path we can either go to F or G. If we go to G we can go to task I, and there is no way we can return to A. So this is a kind of a cyclic graph example. Let me also show you what cyclic graph is. Okay, in this graph there is a path which forms a loop known as cycle. We can come to our initial position if we follow that path. Okay, so if we see vertex B, we can see it goes to C, then E, then D, and we can again come back to point B. So this forms a loop, and this type of graph is known as cyclic graph. Okay, now let's get back to the example of DAG. Okay, uh, let's consider like a directed acyclic graph is a conceptual representation of series of activities, and each activity can be referred as task. Okay, in this example, uh, it defines several tasks like A, B, C, D, E, and so on, and it dictates the order in which they have to run and which task depend on what other task. Okay, so DAG also have some other features like how often we can run it, let's say every 5 minutes or uh, like every day starting a month back. Okay, DAG itself doesn't care about what is happening inside the task, it merely concerned about how to execute them, the order to run them in, and how many times to retry them if they have timeouts and so on. Let's talk about task. A task is a basic unit of execution in Airflow. Tasks are arranged in DAGs, and then they have dependencies set between them in order to express the order they should run in. Okay, let's talk about relationships and dependencies. So the key part of using tasks is defining how they relate to each other, their dependencies, and as we say in Airflow, their upstream and downstream task. You declare your task first, then you declare your dependencies second. Okay, so what is Airflow? Okay, to summarize, Airflow is a platform that lets you build and run workflows. A workflow is represented as a DAG, a directed acyclic graph, and it contains individual pieces of work called tasks arranged with dependencies and data flows taken into action. Let's see how to install Airflow. Let's get started. Okay. So the first step is to install Docker and Docker Compose, as we are going to run Airflow with the Docker. So you have to make sure that Docker is installed on your computer. So you just need to go to these links, and then you have to choose either Mac, Windows, or maybe other platform. In my case, I will choose Mac and select Mac with Intel chip. This will start downloading an DMG file, and further instructions are given below. So I have already made another session on Docker. If you want, you can refer to that session first before beginning with this session. Okay, so let's get back. So this was Docker container, and let's talk about Docker Compose. Docker Compose allows you to run multi-container application, which is exactly the case with Airflow, since it has at least three components. First is web server, there is one scheduler, and there is a metadata database. And since we are going to use this Celery executor, you will have some more components. Once you have Docker Compose installed, we are ready to move on. Let's open a new terminal session, and here I will first go to desktop. Here I will create a new directory. So for this, type mkdir space name of the directory. So I will keep the name as Airflow Docker tutorial. Okay, now we will cd to this directory. Now all we have to do is let's get back to the Airflow page. Okay, so we need to get this file dockercompose.yaml. So this is already created by the Airflow community. To get this file, all you have to do is copy this command and paste it here and press enter. If you type ls, as you can see, we have got the Docker Compose file. Let's check the contents of this file. For this, you can type vi space dockercompose.yaml. So let me give you a quick explanation about it. So first, you have all the common setting that will be applied to all the services you have. So what we have is an image of Airflow. Currently we are using the latest version of Airflow. Then you have some environment variable. So in order to customize the Airflow instance, first we specify that our executor will be the Celery executor. Then we specify the connection to the metadata database, which is a PostgreSQL DB. Same for the result backend, and for the broker URL we are going to use Redis. Then we have the fernet key. So fernet key is used if you want to encrypt your password and so on. So basically, if you want to customize your Airflow instance, you can create some environment variable right here. Next we have the volumes. So all the folders like DAGs, logs, and plugin will be synchronized between the containers and your host. So whatever you put inside this DAGs folder, those files will be automatically synchronized in your containers. So if you create a new DAG definition file, let's say dags.py, and you put that in DAGs folder, so that file will be automatically transferred into local containers. Then we have this user. So this is important because um, we should be we need to make sure that permissions are same between your container and your machines. Okay, so now let's talk about services. Inside services, we have all the components needed by Airflow. So the first is Postgres database. So we have some environment variables, and then we have Redis for broker. So Postgres database is used as a metadata database. Then we have the Airflow web server, which is running on port 8080. So it has some timeout internal and other things. We have one Airflow scheduler. Then we have one Airflow worker to execute the task. Okay, now we have the Airflow init. So this one is important service because whenever we install Airflow first time in our system, we have to initialize the Airflow database. So once we initialize this, what we do is we execute this command airflow db upgrade to upgrade the airflow db, and then we create a username and password with the default username as airflow and password as airflow, and we have last service flower. Close this file with :wq. Okay, let's get back to this airflow page. So for the next step, we will have to create these three directories: DAGs, logs, and plugin. Okay, so for this we will use this command. Okay, we will go back to our terminal session. We will paste this. If we type ls, we have these directories created: DAGs, log, and plugin. Okay, if you are using Mac or Linux system, you have to execute this command also. So once you execute this command, it will export environment variable to make sure that user and group permission are same between your host and the folder in your container. Now that the folders are created and permission are set, we are going to initialize the Airflow instance. Okay, so let's go back to this page. To initialize the Airflow instance, you have to execute this command. Command is docker compose up airflow init. Hit enter. So this process will take a while. So the execution is complete. We have downloaded all the necessary packages, and we have successfully initialized the new instance of Airflow, and we have created an admin account. So the default username is Airflow and the password is Airflow. Okay, so we have successfully completed our installation. Now what we will do is, let's go back to a new session and zoom it. All you need to do is execute this command docker compose and up. Okay, so as you can see, like, we will be creating containers for all the different services like Redis, Postgres, web server, Flower, worker, and so on. So it is currently starting, and let's go back to another terminal session and type docker ps. So this command gives us a list of all the running containers, and as you can see, like, this container are starting, and we can see the name of the containers also. Let me zoom out a bit. Okay, so these are the name of the containers, and all you have to do is open a new web browser session and type localhost 8080. Okay, so this is the Airflow web server, and we have landed on a login page. So the default password and username would be Airflow, and password is also Airflow. Before exploring the UI, let me show you how to stop all the running containers. To stop all the containers, like, you can go to this terminal and press Ctrl C. This will stop all the containers. Okay, if you type in the new session docker ps again, we don't have any containers running. So you can also stop the containers. If you go to the Docker UI, you can see like we have already stopped the container, but you can start all the containers by pressing this button, or you can stop all of them at once using this stop button. Now next we will discuss about Airflow architecture before exploring UI. So we are just going to search for Airflow Celery, and on this page under executor we can see the architecture when we are using the Celery as executor. So it's pretty simple. So we have an Airflow cluster which consists of several components, and let's go through them one by one. So there is a component worker which execute the assigned task. The scheduler is responsible for adding tasks to the queue. There is this web server which provides DAG status and information, and it provides you with a UI to interact with all the tasks. Then we have a database which contains the information about task, DAGs, variable and connection, etc. And we have a Celery which is a queuing mechanism, and it consists of two components. One is the queue broker which stores the command for execution, and there is a result backend which stores the status of completed commands. And if you want to know more detail about how this component interact with each other in this doc, you can go through these details, but to avoid confusion for now, getting to know these components by name would be much easier. Okay, so what we can do is now, okay, so this is the simple UI, and let's first make sure that we start all of the containers. For that you can use this go to Docker and click on this start button to start all the containers. Okay, let's refresh the page. It will take a minute or so to start. Okay. Okay, so once we are on this page, let me walk you through the UI. As you can see, there is a list of DAGs, and currently they are paused, and we can see some more information about each DAG, like who is the owner of that DAG, what's the schedule it runs, what was the last time it ran, the recent task, couple of action and links. We will go through a basic tutorial DAG. Okay, so in this DAG, so this is the tree view, and if we click on the graph view, this would be more familiar as the example shown earlier about directed acyclic graph. So this Airflow DAG contains three tasks. One is the print date, sleep, and templated. To see the DAG definition, we can click on the code. It will show the Python script which is used to create this DAG. One thing to wrap your head around is that the Python script is really just a configuration file specifying the DAG structure as a code, and so it may happen that different tasks defined in a particular DAG run on different workers in different point of time, which means that the script cannot be used to communicate between tasks. And for exactly this purpose, we have another feature called XCOM, which stands for cross communications. But for now, let's go through the DAG. um, First, we will be importing some modules. So on line number 26, we start importing the modules, and uh, we can import as many libraries as we want. So in the second section, uh, we are going to create a DAG, and we want to create some task. And for a DAG and task, we can pass a set of argument to each task constructor, and we can define a dictionary of a default parameter that we can use when creating DAGs. So in this context, we are creating this dictionary called default args, and inside this dictionary we are providing the arguments like the default owner, if DAG depends on past, a default email address, if we want email on failure, email on retries, and so on. Now in the next part, this is where we instantiate the DAG. We can either use a constructor or context manager, and in the latest Airflow version we can use a decorator, but let's take this example as of now. So here we have used a context manager, and so inside this DAG we can pass string that defines the DAG ID, which serve as a unique identifier for your DAG, and we can also pass the default argument, and we can pass the dictionary that we created earlier. And also you can schedule like we can have a schedule interval of like 1 day, so this DAG will run like once a day every day. And we can also define a start day, so when we actually want this DAG to start. In the latest version we can also add the tags to DAGs. So let's say if we have many DAGs, so tags will be very handy to get the required DAGs. So now let's talk about task. So the tasks are generated when instantiating an operator object. So the object instantiated from an operator is called a task, and the first argument for this operator is the task ID, which acts as an unique identifier for that particular task. Now Airflow has a different set of operator provided. If we search Airflow operators, so as you can see, Airflow has provided so many operators for different purposes. Okay, so we can import any of the operator according to what kind of task we want to create, and we can add those in our DAG. Now in this example we are like a bash operator is used. What it does is it executes a bash command. Now in task 1, the task ID is given as print date, and the expectation is that it will execute a bash command called date, and we should be able to see the output. The task 2 is also a bash operator, and the task ID is given as sleep. It depends on past, this is kept as false, and the bash operator the bash command that we are passing is like sleep for 5 seconds, and we have also given the retry attempts. Also for each task you can provide a documentation, and let's look at the third task, which is a which has the task ID templated, and it has the bash command. It refers to this templated command, which is a Jinja templating, for which you can search on Google what Jinja template is. And so the Jinja templating also makes Airflow much more versatile, as you can use different macros. So to find the list of macros, you can go to this documentation page, and you can search for macros section. So in this macros section we have given different variables. So if you see this ds, it gives the execution date in the format of this particular format, ds no dash execution date without any dashes, and so on. This previous date, for getting previous execution date, previous ds no dash with execution date, previous execution date with no dashes. So there are multiple variables provided, so that's this you can use in Jinja templating. Also you can pass any custom parameters to yeah. So in the last section of this DAG definition file, we have set the dependency. As you can see, task T1 has some two downstream tasks. They are passed as a list as T2 and T3. So again, let's go to the graph view. And so every task has like a couple of possible states, and you can see the states are given here. So first is like none state. So the task, when task is in none state, it has not been yet queued for the execution, and or its dependencies are not met yet. If the task is in schedule state, scheduler has determined the task dependencies are met and it should run. When task is in queued state, the task has been assigned to an executor and it is waiting for a worker. When task is in running state, like task is running on a worker, local or any salary workers. When task is in success state, it the task has finished running without any errors. When the task is in failed state, the task had an error during an execution and it has failed to run. And if we set up a retry attempts, it will mark the task as up for retry, or we can reschedule the task. Also, if we want to skip the task, we can skip it. So let's run this DAG. For this, we will turn on this DAG. Before that, let's go to the tree view. So as of now, we can see there is nothing. We can only see the task. So once we turn on the DAG, we will refresh the page. So okay, so it has been done. So yeah, something has appeared here, right? We can see like in the line of this DAG, we have these two circles. This circle represent the DAG run. So a DAG run is the instantiation of a DAG, and whenever DAG is instantiated into a DAG run, like it also instantiates the task as a task instance, and for this task instance we have different state. So DAG run also have a state, and task instances also have a state. So in this case, our DAG run, it says it is success. If we click on any square boxes, we can see the logs of the executed task. If we click on the log, it will redirect us to this logs, and we can see some information like the Airflow DAG, which DAG it is. We can also see the task ID, we can see execution date and all. Then we can see like the bash operator has tried to run this command date, and the output of this command was 30 September. 2021, and the task has exited with a return code 0. That means the task was successful, which means the task has successfully run, and the next task got queued, and it was also successfully executed. If we want to see the logs, we can click on this task, go to the logs, and we can see the bash command to sleep for 5 seconds was executed. So output is none. You can see this task, this command was run at this particular time, and after the 5 second the execution was completed, and we have exited with return code 0. We can go to the tree view and see like all the run were successful. So why 2 runs? So in the code we can see the start date was given as 2 days ago. That's why when we started the DAG, it ran for 2 execution dates. One is for 28th, another is for 29th. Okay, so yeah, so if we want to re-trigger this DAG, what we can do is we can click on this button, trigger DAG. We can also pass a config. Now as you can see, the DAG run is still in running state, and currently sleep task is running. Now execution of this DAG is completed. If we click on this, we have several options. We can clear the DAG run. If we clear the DAG run, it will again start, it will set the state of every task as none, which will queue the task again, and we will run that tasks again. So now if we check the task instance of this sprint date again, if we go to the logs, we can see it has attempted it second time, and it has executed the command and exited the task. If we go to tree view and if we open the slip, so it also has 2 attempts. If you click on 2, this will download the log file, or else we can click on the logs to see the logs on Airflow UI itself. So there are a couple of options DAG offer, like in the latest version it offers a calendar view for our so we can see like when a DAG was successful or not. We can see the task duration, we can see the task tries, some landing times. We can also see the Gantt chart to see how long each task was executed, which tasks were running parallelly and whatnot. If you go to the details, it will show you the DAG details. So in this case, this tutorial DAG had schedule interval of 1 day. The catch-up was set as true. So what it does is, when we set the start date of this DAG as 2 days ago, so today is 30th of September, so it set the start date of this DAG as 28th, and when we set up the catch-up as true, it has executed all the DAG runs for execution date starting from 28th of September. And since the interval for running this DAG was set as 1 day schedule interval, it executed only once per day for that execution dates. So end date is set as none. So this DAG, so if we give an end date, we will run this DAG every day till we reach that end date. We can also set like max active run for this DAG. As of now 0 runs are active. We can also set concurrency. So this variable defines how many tasks in a DAG can run concurrently. So let's say in this DAG we have 3 tasks. and we have concurrency 16. So 16 is the default value, so we can run maximum 16 instances of this task for a particular DAG. And at a time, based on our worker capacity, we can run multiple DAG runs at a time for a single DAG. And this is the variable which will limit the number of tasks, including all the DAG runs that will be running concurrently. Now the default arguments, we can see we have given a default email address, email on failure action, email on retry we have set it as false, we have kept the default owner as Airflow, and we have only kept retries as 1. We can also see how many tasks we have, and we can see all the task IDs also. We can see the file path of this DAG, and yeah, we can see the tag. To validate the script further, we can test this DAG. So for that, we will go to the terminal and we will type docker ps. Let's take the let's take this container where the web server is running. Now we can type docker exec, we can paste container ID, and we can execute a command like airflow version. So it shows the default, so the current version of Airflow, and we can use this we can execute different commands to do the testing. Let's first try to get a list of all the Airflow DAGs. So we can type Airflow DAGs list. So this command gave us the list of all the Airflow DAGs that we have. Now we are interested in the tutorials DAG. Now let's print the tasks that are part of this tutorials DAG. For this, we will type Airflow tasks list tutorial. So this command gives the list of all the tasks that we have for this tutorials DAG, and if you want to see a tree view, we can just pass an extra flag as tree. So it shows us the nesting, like the first we execute the print date, and then we have these two tasks, templated and slip. For testing purpose, we can type Airflow tasks, will give test, then we will pass the DAG name as tutorial, and we will give the task ID as print date, and we will pass a date 2021-09 29th. Let's see what it does. Okay, so we can see it created a second attempt. So task ID is printed, and the execution date, what was the execution date? Okay, yeah, so we passed the correct execution date, it ran that command, and it successfully printed the time. Now let's test the next command. Let's see if sleep command is working. So we will give a task ID as sleep, and we will give an execution date of, let's say, today only, 2021-09. 30. Yeah, so this also ran. Yeah, now it is ran successfully. What it did, it took the execution date of today. uh, so this is our fourth attempt to run this task today, and we have ran this command to sleep for 5 seconds, and we can see from this timestamp the task started on 41 second, and it ran for 5 seconds, and task was executed exited with a code 0. So in this way we can validate the different tasks of the scripts. And let's go back to the DAG. So there are many more examples given, and you can go through each of them, but for now let's talk about these fields which are updated. As you can see, the task was success 3 times, so we have three different DAG runs, and they were all successful. We can see 2 of them were scheduled for a particular execution date, and one DAG run was a manual run. So there are total 3 DAG runs. We can also edit or perform some other action. We can clear the state, we can change their states and all. Now, so there are a couple of example DAGs, and the question is, what if we want to add the new DAGs, right? So for that, earlier we created the DAGs directory, and if we let me open that. cd airflow docker tutorial. So here we had created 3 directories. One is DAGs, logs, and plugins. Also, this is the directory where we downloaded the docker compose YAML file. What we will do is you can open this project in any editor. I have used IntelliJ for this purpose. So as you can see, I have opened this project in IntelliJ. Now let me walk you through what is there in the logs directory. So in the logs directory you can see like DAG processor manager logs. There is a scheduler logs for different dates. So there is this logs for tutorial DAG, inside which we have task specific logs and inside those task directories we have different execution dates directories, and there we have logs for different attempts. So if we open, so here you can see the different logs. Okay, let's get back to the main topic of creating DAGs. Now let's say we want to create a DAG. So for that, what we will do is we will create a new Python file. Let's name it sample DAG. So here we are going to define our DAG. So for that, let's import from Airflow import DAG. Okay, let's import some operators. For this tutorial we will use a Python operator and a dummy operator. So let's import Python operator from airflow dot operators dot Python operator, import Python operator. And let's import a dummy operator from airflow dot operators dot dummy operator, import dummy operators. Also we will use time delta module, so date time module. For that, import from date time, import date time and time delta. Now let's create the dictionary of default arguments. For that, default args in curly braces we will give owner as Akshay. We will give depends on past as false. We will give a start date as date time 2021st 9th. We'll give a date 29. Let's give our retries. Okay, let's set an email on failure as false. Also email on retry false. We will give retries as only one, and we will give retry delay as a time delta object with retry delay as 30 sec. Okay, let's give 1 minute. Now these are our default argument. Now let's create a DAG with a context manager. So for this we will do with DAG as DAG, and in this DAG we will pass the DAG ID as Akshay test. Also we will give max active runs as 3. We will give catch up true. Also a schedule interval. Schedule interval is just like setting a cron time. We can set it as daily, hourly, or we can pass the particular time interval, and then we will pass the default args. Now let's create some task in this DAG. So this would be our start task. We will use dummy operator. We will give task ID as start. This should be enough. Okay, my bad. Okay, so we have created one task named start. Let's create another task. This time we will, let's say we will use a for loop for I in range 1 to 6. We will create, let's say, task T1. Let's use Python operator for this. We will give a task ID as a let's say number I itself. We will give a Python callable, let's say sample function. We will create a sample function later. For now, let's say we have passed that as a Python callable. Also, let's say we want to pass some arguments, keyword arguments. So we can give it like this. So let's say we want to pass a number whose value is derived from I. So in the sample function now we can add a parameter as number, which is expected as int, and in this function we will simply try to print the number. So number is number. Let's give a default LG. Now we have created the task. Now let's set the dependency of task. For that we will give start and downstream t1. So okay, let's see what do we have here. Please use operators.python. Okay, let's try that. Okay, let's save this. Okay, let's refresh this page and see if we have our DAG here. Okay, so there is one DAG import error. The key has to be a string is okay, so we have messed up something. Let's go back to this. Okay, task ID is expected as string, so we will format it as task ID dot format I. Okay, 0. Let's go back. Let's try to refresh this page. Okay, task ID key has been already added to the DAG. Duplicate task ID found. Okay, okay, so now we can see there is this new DAG added. So whenever we add a new file to this whenever we add a new Python script to this DAG, it gets automatically synchronized with the volumes, the DAG volume that we created for our containers. And inside our DAG, let's open this DAG and see. So as you can see, we have set a dependency, the downstream dependency, as like when the start task is executed and it is successful, then we will queue these different tasks. Let's unpause this DAG and let's run this DAG. Let's refresh. In the new Airflow version, we have this option to auto refresh, but the versions like 1.10 on till 2.0 we have to manually refresh, so that's one thing. Let's go to the tree view. Okay, so we can see there is a successful DAG run. If you click on it, let's click on task ID 1. If we go to the logs, we can see it says the number is 0. Okay, let's go to tree view for task ID 2 log. Okay, it's passing the same number. Okay, it's taking a default value. Okay, now let's save our DAG and go to DAGs. We can refresh. Let's manually run this DAG, trigger DAG, and yeah, so our dummy task is executed and the other tasks are up for retry. Let's see how long they take. Okay, so these tasks are up for retry, and in the code we can see the retry delay we have set as 1 minute. So let's try to wait for 1 minute. Till that time I will walk you through the UI. So there are couple of options here. We can set how many DAG runs we want to see here. So we don't have more than 2 DAG runs as of now. That's why I think this 5 options should be also enough. Okay, something has happened. DAGs are in no status, it says. It's okay, so there is a failed DAG. We can see the tasks are failed. If we see the logs, we should be able to see why it failed. Okay, the task is failed because it requires missing it is missing one required positional argument number. So let's see what we have done. Okay, let's do this. Now let's see, go to DAGs, refresh. We can go to code and see if everything is all right now. Okay, so it is now how we want. We can trigger the DAG again. Now we have created another DAG run, and this time it was successful. So let's see the logs. So for start, do we have any logs? No, we don't, since it's a dummy operator. And for the other task, let's open them one by one. So log, we can see the number is 1. Let's go to tree view for task ID 5. In the logs, let's see. Okay, the number is 5. So our DAG is working, and for every task we can see some other information like the task instance details. It shows like information about task and its attributes. What was the host name, what is the log URL, log file path, So this thing you can use, and it's pretty handy to debug any problems. So there are a couple of properties that you can go through, but I think this should be enough to get you started with Airflow. uh, if you have any kind of question, you can directly ping me on Slack, or uh, you can mail. So yeah, so that's it for now, and thanks for listening.